people are dead. And a lot more want to know why.
Okay. I warned you.
Once you know, you can't unknow.
Hey, this is serious.
It is. So stop playing childish games. Look, I have no clue what happened to them.
I can see you.
Somebody wiped all the CCTV footage.
You wanna see me?
We have a serious problem here.
What the heck?
Turn around!
If I find you...
No!
It's game over.
We trap him, we beat his ass.
It is a frosty 12 degrees outside, so keep those chestnuts roasting from the open fire, or else you'll get some frostbite in some unexpected places.
What was that? It was like a scream.
Something else.
You go with him.
Run.
Those things, they really are what you say they are.
Hey man, we got big problems.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we need a way out of here. What the hell are we still doing here?
Couldn't agree more. Grab the door. Vampires.
Listen, they want you to run. They're hunting you.
Yummy.
We don't know what the hell she is.
Do not lie to me!
In this world, we're the hunters.
Checking in.
This is Kate Sanderson, horror actress based in the UK. Please check out Gruesome Herzog's interviews and reviews. They are awesome.
This is actress Nicola Wright from the UK. Please check out Gruesome Herzog's interviews and reviews. They are awesome.
This is actor Stephanie Lodge from the UK. Please check out Gruesome Herzog's interviews and reviews. They are awesome.
Hi, this is Simon Phillips. Please check out Gruesome Herzog. He's awesome.
Hello, everyone. This is Gruesome Herzog. My very special guest is one of the most talented actor, writers, producers in the independent circuit and all over the world. It's one of the interviews I've been dying to do for many, many years. It's Simon Phillips. Simon, how are you?
I'm good, Scott. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Like I told you off the air, I mean, I've been wanting to reach out to you for a long time to do an interview. And sometimes that when you get stung by certain actors, you're not gun shy, but, you know, I just feel as though, oh, he ain't going to give me no time of day. And you responded back.
All the time in the world for you, Scott. And nonsense.
You have some fantastic films in your resume. I actually just watched the last of the Killer Santa Claus. I actually finished watching today. I actually seen the first one, but I didn't even realize that there was a second one made. Shame on me. You can do almost any character. And I think what's brilliant about you is, like I said before, when I see Simon Phillips' name attached to a film, I'm automatically going to watch it. I mean, it's just weird, but I just love your body of work. And if I know that you're a writer in it or you're part of it, I'm pretty damn sure it's going to be worthwhile to watch.
Well, that's very kind. And like I said, I don't think you've seen the bad movies then. You know, you've lucked upon only the good ones.
Well, I'm going to start on some movies. I'm not going to go the whole way back. I'm just going to start on the ones that I, in my opinion, I think it brought you up in the forefront to a lot of horror podcasters and horror writers that brought up Simon Phillips. His name is more of a big contender, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm just going to simply start with the one that I just mentioned briefly a few minutes ago is Once Upon a Time at Christmas in 2017.
Yeah.
This is a movie that you've been in many films before that. I can't see everything because it's almost impossible. I get movies all the time. But the movie that put Simon Phillips on the map to me is this movie here in 2017, that watching you perform as that cranky old Santa Claus, that murderous rampage that you have with your crazy wife, Simon Phillips was top notch, number one in my movie viewing from that day forward. Your experiences with the playing the Santa Claus in the one in 2017 and the Nights Before Christmas I just watched. How much fun was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun doing. It's a lot of fun doing Christmas horror, to begin with. I have actually been in some Hallmark movies, which are very Christmas, threw up onto, like very sickly Christmas, like sort of.
Right.
Sweet. So this is, which are not really movies for me, sort of type thing. But so the horror movies is for everybody that wants something a little alternative. They still want to be entertained at Christmas, but they want a bit of alternative seasonal entertainment. And horror fans, they're a good crowd and they like having fun. So imagine how much fun it was to, for me and Sailor to put on the outfits and pretend to be Mr. and Mrs. Claus, being serial killers, killing everyone at Christmas. It's a whole lot of fun. You can't take it. The problem is right. I do take it very seriously, but I say you can't take it too seriously. I mean, you can't take the movie too seriously. We take it pretty seriously when we make it, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
Now, is there a third one in the making?
So there is a third one, still, which still hasn't been filmed. There is an outline and everything for there's a script and but these things always takes time, Scott.
It does. Oh yeah, I'm full aware of that. Now, Christmas horror movies is one of my favorites. I just started some. I'm doing a podcast right now for the next 25 days of reviewing Christmas horror movies that I have not seen.
Right.
And obviously the one that I'm starting off with, or it'll be a third edition, is Once Upon. I'll be posting that review shortly.
Oh, nice.
But I have tons of them right now that, if they're bad, I don't review them. Obviously, I'm not here to promote and trash movies and say, hey, this movie's horrible because, just because I don't like it doesn't mean Tom, Dick, or Harry's not going to like it. I don't fuss with lighting. I don't fuss with stupid shit because I'm in the business. I know how it is to make a movie, props and all that. So just to get a movie out is enough of work and pride to get it out. I'm not here to bash anyone's film.
Well, that's good.
Once Upon a Time at Christmas. I mean, I saw it back when it first came out on digital. And like I said, I watched the second one just recently because, like I said, I got tons of movies. But, I mean, your character in there, I mean, in the second one, you have the fucked up eye. People don't realize how versatile Simon Phillips is. That's what I think is so amazing about you is you can pull a character and make it your own, and the accent that you have makes it even better because I'm a big UK horror fan in Australia. I love those films. I do a lot of them on my podcast. I just love them because in America, what I see in England is different than what I see here. But your accent alone, I think, what really sticks out in some of your crazy ass killer personalities. And that's, I'm not being funny about it. You're just brilliant. You're fucking brilliant.
You're too kind or too drunk or maybe both.
Well, I am drinking Jack Daniels, so maybe I'm not.
Maybe that's the thing. Yeah, it's a lot. Look, it's a lot of fun to play those guys, sort of. So, I don't know. That's something that I've been keen on doing. I'm also, obviously you say I'm like a British actor. I was actually born in Ireland, but trained in London, and all the time in America. I live over here, right? So all the time they're always like, "Can you do an American accent?" And I've taught myself out of so many jobs, Scott, by going, "Look, if you want an American, just hire an American."
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Simon. I mean, with your resume and your talent, I mean, if they don't want you, they don't want it. Yeah, you just have who. It's your movie, guys. You have who you do want. Don't worry about it. I totally agree with you because I cannot picture Simon Phillips doing an American accent in any of his films.
No, I mean I have done it every now and then. I don't know if you've ever seen a couple of these, but I don't enjoy doing it, because I can't ad lib and improvise the way I like to. So.
Right, because I have a bunch of years I have to watch it. Some action films that you've done. There's a lot I haven't caught up with.
No, that's all right. That's quite all right.
But I've seen enough that I don't know. I just for a horror fan and I'm a producer in horror movies too, and actor and voice actor and stuff. But when I see a talent I mean, your writing is amazing. I mean, the storylines you have.
Oh.
I did watch that one, the Harvest one.
The Harvest one now. Which one is that? So these things, sometimes I make them and then they get called something else later. So what is that?
Hold on, let me look it up. I started watching it and I kind of like Blood Harvest.
Oh, Blood, yes, which was called something else when I made it. I'm only in that for like a minute because or whatever, because I was doing a bit of a favor for the director there. So, yeah.
I mean, it's. Look. Every reviewer. Now, like I told you before, and which we'll get into it later on. I don't want to talk about it too much now, but the one of the movies I lied to you. I did see a movie I think before the Santa Claus one that, or am I wrong here? No, maybe not. It's you guys actually made a second part to it. Shit.
Oh, what happened in it? And I'll help you. Sorry.
It's the hold on. I just had it in front of me. Where the hell did it go?
Oh, Butchers, maybe.
Butchers.
Yeah.
Butchers I liked a lot as well. And I forgot all about it that you were in there.
Right. So now I did the American accent for Butchers because the director wanted that.
And then you were brilliant in there too. So you can do the American accent, but the Simon Phillips that I know is himself. Is that better?
That was good fun, that one.
Yeah, the Butchers, that was good fun. I mean, I enjoyed that film. Of course, you have a sequel coming up too. But you have a lot of films like Love Hurts in 2022, Ash and Dust.
Yeah.
You know, the one movie that I want to talk to you about is you play the character of Charles, the de-influencer. Now, this movie is a mind fuck.
Yeah.
And I thought when I started watching that, you know, there's this guy in a mask who kidnapped this girl, you know, and then there's another girl, and the girl gets killed. And so I'm coming in this movie as, it's one of these movies where this guy is, you know, streaming and wanting to kill. But then when I watched this film the whole way to the very end, I think the way that movie twisted like that made me like this movie all more. I mean, you were absolutely brilliant. It's quite different from you. I mean, it made a horror aspect of it, but it made you human. And this movie impressed me so much. I haven't reviewed it yet. Like I said, I watched it a couple of days ago, but if listeners haven't heard it, I'm sure they might have. But do you want to talk about the movie The Influencer?
Sure. Yeah. It's one close to my heart because firstly, thank you for watching it. And it's one of those ones where it's what I call a social media horror. Like, so there's this sort of subgenre that sort of popped up of recent years. I think around COVID time it came around. People started to make sort of unfriended and sort of social media-esque horrors, like a little mini subgenre. And I quite enjoyed it because social media is pretty horrific, sort of in real life, sort of. But what it is it's born out of my absolute hatred, honestly, of social media. And because people look at things on there and you're like, and I always have to explain to people, I was like, someone's posting it. That's exactly what they want you to see. You realize that, right? Like sort of, it's not representative of real life any more than movies are, sort of like literally. But because it seems to be, it's voyeuristic and it's, so it seems to be someone's life. You're like, well, someone's showing you only what they want you to see, sort of. So you mustn't, you mustn't confuse it for real life just because someone, like I've heard people say, they look at, couples on there and say, they go, these people look very, very happy and stuff like that. And you're like, I mean, you're being told that they're very happy by the people that, or the authors, sort of, you've no idea. It's no more likely to be true than untrue, sort of, it's, I mean, just, I wouldn't use it as any kind of litmus test that someone's happy. Somebody says, this couple are getting a divorce, sort of, and they go, but they look so happy. And you're like, do you mean on social media? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. That's not, it alarms me that people give it value, sort of, and they really do, and I was like, oh, I shudder to think that the children of tomorrow will actually value what it's on any more than they will value a movie. And you're like, well, when we see a movie, we know it's not real. We know it's entertainment. My worry is that with social media, we've started to lose the idea that it's, that it's not real, sort of thing. People think, oh no, it's actually that guy, it's actually that person. They're like, it's it's what that guy wants you to think, or that girl wants you to think.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I'll let you continue. Is you're right with this social media, people making money off of making videos that are stupid, or you see the news. We have that one most recently where it's a black gentleman that had his whole life ahead of him, and him and his buddy thought it'd be a good idea to fake a robbery, and the guy got shot and killed.
Yeah,
for something so stupid.
It's so stupid. And for what they were doing it for? For a prank on a absolutely. And you're like, that's crazy. And
it goes as even worse to where, like you meant, like this movie here you're talking about. We're going to talk about. It's like you got these girls, and it's not just girls; it's guys too. That they can pretend that there's somebody else, and all they care about is those likes and those views, and they don't care about the person that's watching. All they care about is you. They say hateful things to get numbers, but how many kids have committed suicide because of someone saying, "Go ahead and kill yourself. You're ugly"? It happens all the time.
Yeah,
and this movie hit home with me.
I mean, they've started to do it now. Like, sort of, they've started, harassment and bullying and stuff. They've started to monitor it and moderate it and regulate it and stuff like, and they need to, because it's like, it's in our children's hands, it's a direct link to them, sort of, and we don't realize its power, or its influence on young developing minds, and I'm sure you, Scott, are of an age where we grew up without social media. So, for us, it's actually, for us, it's actually quite fun, because we know that what it is, and we remember a life without it. It's like we're remembering a life without cell phones. You kind of appreciate it. But the younger generation of today don't remember a life without it. They've always had it. So they have their vision, or their version of what they see as reality is very skewed. Which is the alarming thing. Anyway, that was the thrust of the movie, about de-influencing rather than influencing. And this guy's mission is to rebalance the scales a little bit.
And go ahead.
Well, it's sort of it's a bit Saw meets law-abiding citizen is the way I think of it. Is in one guy takes into his hands. It's like somebody sees something wrong, and somebody has to do something. Eventually, somebody has to say enough and stop. And he's convinced that social media is dangerous, and people are like, well, it's a game, it's a toy, it's a thing. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to demonstrate to you how dangerous it is. And then as soon as I do, social media hopefully gets on trial, and then people will start to take it a bit seriously.
That movie was brilliant. The idea was brilliant.
Thank you.
And the way you played, the character you played was quite different than anything you've done. And that was a versatile role for you. That it still had the horror aspect of it. So And
I think we were heading down the more cerebral horror, like it's horrific, inside your mind, really.
And I didn't recognize that was you at first, because I always see you without a mask on. Because your build looked different. I'm not being weird or nothing, but I didn't really realize that was you until you said something. And then I knew who Santa Phillips was. But that movie, I thought, was one of the most of movies that I've watched this year. That was probably the most surprising view that I didn't expect it to be. And that's bravo to you guys, because that movie was really, when they get to the very end and they see exactly what's going on, it was absolute brilliance.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And shout out to my producer, director, Jamie Bailey, who helps us, bring these things to life. And we've got 2 more for you, Scott. So there's 2 more coming up. And we shot them back to back. So they're, we've got a bit of a much bigger stories. The world is about to get a little bigger there.
No, I can't wait. Now, a movie that I have on the watch list is The Fearway.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Another so I like to do every now and then a movie set in one location where, and you'll, as soon as you see this, you might see it in several movies, including The Influencer, which I just mentioned, where they're trapped in one location and the danger is something outside, and the characters have to get out of the danger. When that happens, Scott, even though that situation is universal, what happens is you get interesting moments with characters coming out, like what people do in sort of survival fight or flight type scenarios. So that's always interesting to me, like what a couple would do, what a group of friends would do, what an individual would do, sort of what a child would do, and that's another. I can't really tell you too much about that one because I'll spoil it straight away. So I can't talk too much about that one other than it was a fun one to make.
How about Blood and Snow?
Blood and Snow is the exact same sort of story. However, I can tell you a bit more about that one. So that one is about a group of scientists who dig up something underneath the ice, a bit The Thing style, sort of.
Nice.
They find something alien that they should have left alone, and then they take it back with them to the base, and it infects the sole female of the base, and the female has a desire to spread, but she can only spread to other females. So it's a bit The Thing meets Species, if you're old enough to remember all those. So it's a good because she's trapped in the base with a bunch of guys, and the bunch of guys start to realize that if they let this thing out, they're in a whole lot of trouble.
And my boy's in there too, Vernon Wells.
Oh, Vernon Wells, yeah. I've done a couple of movies with Vernon. I do love Vernon.
I met Vernon at a film festival years ago. He's a really cool dude.
He's a great guy, isn't he? Sort of, and he's got stories that go on forever. I've been trying to get filming done, but he'd be telling such a good story. They'd be like, "Yeah, but just wait a second. Go on. Tell us about Schwarzenegger and what you see." He had great stories. A lot of time for Vernon.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick Buskapek. He talked about his movie as well, is What Lurks Beneath in 2024. That's on my watch list.
That's actually coming up, so that gets released December 13th. So yes, that's mine and Nick's next movie. Actually, I don't know why they got released within 2 weeks of each other, but they did. So
I'm anxious to see that one too because I've become a big fan of Nick. We have an interview coming down the road.
Yeah.
All My Friends Are Dead. That's where I first seen him in as a cop. And then, of course, I seen him in the most recent Silent Bite, which we're going to talk about that shortly. He's on my radar because the characters that he plays is similar to you, except he does he has like the old man feel of it. Like I'm 56, so he's like my age group area, how he sees things. Yeah. And he was freaking brilliant in both of those movies.
He's a tremendous character actor, I think. Nick, he does one thing very, very well, and that's the thing I get him on to do. I mean, he can do so much, but I do like to get him to do. I like to get him to do one thing because it's my favorite thing he does. So every time he gets a script from me, he's always playing a bit of a cunt, to be honest.
Exactly.
I ring him up and I tell him that. So I was like, right. So this guy.
Well, he had some kind words to say about you when I was messaged him earlier. That he really enjoys working with you. So
yeah, we have a nice back and forth, me and Nick. So I always look forward to a movie with Nick. I must say.
Now here's one that's from Jamie Bailey. That we have this Winnie the Pooh, we have Pinocchio coming, all of the characters from Disney that are made into horror movies. Hold on 1 second. I got dogs barking. Give me a second.
That's all right.
Sorry about that. I can always The Mousetrap in 2024. I think this movie was probably one of the most surprise for my viewing wise, different than what I thought it was going to be. This is not just your typical Mickey Mouse guy in a Mickey Mouse mask killing people.
No.
There is another story in this movie that really did a major twist. And to see Tim Collins as this manager of this place, to have this, I guess you could say the Mickey Mouse fan, you know, and to see him go into his office and to see something's really weird going on here. And then you didn't see Tim Collins anymore.
Well, you do, but you don't. Yes, but
yes, you know what I mean.
I do know.
Like, where did Tim go? You know, and not realizing that he's now Mickey. And
that was
again, a performance by you is different than what you've done before.
Yeah, that was very different, I must admit. We were actually the first people to do that. We released that trailer on January 1st of this year, right when it came into public domain. The copyright opened up, and we were the first people to do it. Lots of people said that they were going to do movies, but we were actually the only people that had done a movie at that point. We were like, oh, we made it last year and waited to release it because we knew when we could release it. So we were like ahead of the curve a little bit. And now that, and everybody was saying, Disney are going to sue you. You're going to lose your homes. Disney are going to take, and then Disney, Disney aren't really the monster people make them out to be. They didn't sue us, they saw the movie. I think they knew that we stuck to the copyright. Our Mickey Mouse looks a certain way, so he had to look like the original Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. So he had to be black and white. He can't wear the white gloves. He doesn't have the red jumpsuit, and you have to observe a lot of that sort of. So I think we got that right, and I will tell you that film was phenomenally successful. Distributed in every country in the world. To tell you that,
and and to think that Simon Phillips is involved in that. I mean, that's something to put in your hat. Because
that's something I never thought I'd. When you're starting out, people go, "Well, what do you want to do? What sort of movies do you want to make as an actor?" Never in my mind, when I was a young actor, did I imagine I would end up playing Mickey Mouse in a horror movie.
And you were brilliant. I think.
Then I didn't imagine that about Santa Claus either. They go, "Do you want to be a deranged serial killer Santa Claus?" Well, yes, I do.
But that makes you Simon Phillips, though. So that's a trademark that you're going to have forever.
Exactly.
Every Christmas when horror movies are being played.
Somebody said about Silent Bite, Nights Before Christmas. They're like, man, what happened to you guys at Christmas? What's like who hurt you? Like, oh, no one. I actually love Christmas, so I was like, no, but I understand why you've said that.
Yeah, I think one of the most coolest scenes in this movie is right at the very end when the one girl who survived all the way through, gets demised out of the sky blue. And I think that just topped the movie right off.
That was good fun.
Absolute brilliance. Now, a movie is one of the reasons why I've reached out, because I've seen a lot of good stuff with you, is Silent Bite. Now, as I said in my review, and I'll say it to you as well, I am not a vampire fan. I'm really not. I'm a fan of The Lost Boys and Fright Night. But, and I'll say this again, I'll tell the director tomorrow when I interview her, this is not anything against her. If Simon Phillips wasn't attached to this movie, I probably wouldn't have watched it.
Good. You know what? You should tell that to Taylor. She needs to hear things like that.
I'm just not a fan of vampire movies. I'm really not.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But when, again, this is horror and Christmas with a bunch of bank robbers and some vampire bitches.
Mm-hmm.
And they clash. And then that young kid that you had with you that was not even, you could tell he ain't part of that clan. He's way different than the rest of you. And when I watched this, and I went into it open-minded, Simon. I mean, if I didn't like it, Simon, I wouldn't review it.
I know. You're very kind like that if you didn't like it, you wouldn't say anything, which is a very kind thing to do, by the way. But it tells people, obviously, what you think about it a little bit, but there's no need. I do respect, Scott, that you don't trash talk. There's not.
No. And I really enjoyed this one because Simon Phillips in this movie wasn't the how to say it, the hero of the film. And, he's going to survive the film. It wasn't like that. And quite surprised in this movie too. I really enjoyed this. I mean, it's got over 1,000 some hits already on my YouTube channel, the review wise. And you played Father Christmas. They all had Christmas names, your whole bank robbing crew. The getaway driver, I thought, really added some extra spark to this movie.
I love Dan Molson. He's a hilarious person in real life. So it's great to get him in.
And this movie had everything from, you had that boy falling in love with that girl they had captive, whatever. The ending did surprise me a little bit, I must say. But the guy that played the old guy at the counter, he was very good too.
Paul Whitney. He's a wonderful actor, wonderful comedic actor as well. So he's just got a great sense of comedy timing. and he's wonderful. He was also in one of the movies you mentioned earlier, Blood and Snow.
Yep.
You know, like he's one of my guys, I'd call them. You know, sort of that I turn to if I have something. When I write these stories, Scott, I actually picture these people doing it because it makes it easier to write it. You know, go well, Nick Biscabeg will be this guy. You know, he'll be the Grinch. The Paul Whitney will be the manager, and when I can write it and I can hear their voice in my head. You know, sort of a little easier.
Good old Rudolph.
But yeah, he's and Dan Moulton. You know, all these guys, all of those guys. I mean, I'm sure you've made this magic link, but the head of this movie is basically boys versus girls, right?
Yep.
You know, so that's what it is. Or vampires versus humans, but all the it's boys versus girls, really. And the head of the girls is Sailor de Good. She's the mother of the vampires. And I'm the head of the boys. Because I'm Father Christmas, that's my gang. So, but Sailor and me are obviously the people that play Mr. and Mrs. Claus in the 2 Christmas movies before that.
Yeah.
So it's our actual third Christmas horror movie together. We're just on opposite sides this time for this.
And what's weird is you wouldn't really recognize that's her.
No, she's a little different in this one, playing mother, sort of. Yeah, it was wonderful to get her back in again on something because it was. I've only made Christmas horror movies with Sailor, so and she's sort of my Christmas wife, if you like. You know, sort of in terms of the horror movie world.
But another good one. I mean, I really enjoyed this one too. You know, when you get a taste of bank robbers, you know, hover out in a motel on Christmas Eve. Possible snowstorm coming. They think they're safe. Well, lo and behold, there's some vampire chicks in the same. It's just a really put together great film.
Do you want to know my one-line pitch for this movie that got it made, by the way? And I was like, right, Reservoir Dogs meets From Dusk Till Dawn set at Christmas.
That's very true.
Now, if you see all that, you go, oh yeah, because Reservoir, they're post-robbery. It's at Christmas, and then they get From Dusk Till Dawn. They get trapped in a place they can't get out of, really. Sort of, you know. So that's the whole. That was the whole idea. It was right there in that one sentence, and they're like, everyone was like, okay, yeah, got it.
Now, did that movie kind of surprise you? What was the take on it?
The take on it was, you know, boys versus girls. You know.
No. How was it received in your eyes from reviewers?
Oh, yeah, you know, like it was an incredibly fun project to make, definitely. Although it was very stressful to make. It was all night shoots for, we shot this movie in 8 days, you know, sort of. So, so it was 8 days, night shoots up in like very north in Canada, a place called Perry Sound, and it was very cold, you know, sort of. So like it was very cold, and we just took over this motel in the middle of nowhere, so it was kind of, you know, and all the cast and the crew, we all stayed at the motel, and we were all there for 2 weeks, probably doing this, you know, sort of. So it was great because we were all there in the middle of nowhere. There was like you get a real family feeling when it does that, and I know a lot of these people already. I didn't know a lot of the crew is American, and they came up from Buffalo. I didn't know all of them, but because that's where the director wanted her people to come from, so they came up from there. So it was great. It was a great process, and I think the movie got, just executed really well. Sometimes you have a good idea for a movie, and it doesn't get executed very well. This one was one where I was perfectly pleased with how it turned out. I was like, oh, that's exactly what I thought it would be, you know, sort of, which doesn't always happen, you know, sort of be like, oh, I was hoping it would be something like this, you know, sort of, and then something happens on the way that means it isn't like that. But this one I'm very pleased with, and the take people have on it, I think. I mean, I've seen people that really like it. I mean, I'm sure it's not for everybody, obviously. But people then, you know, go, oh, I didn't like that. And you go, oh, why not? You know, you didn't like it? And they go, well, I don't really like horror movies. And you're like, well, then don't watch it. You know, so I don't know why you obviously didn't like horror. If you watch Hallmark Christmas movies, you're not going to like this one, probably.
You struck a nerve with me. From doing this for 14 years, I've seen reviewers in the past, which don't exist anymore because they're all fly-by-nights. They want to be Howard Stern of the industry, and it doesn't go very far but it's funny you said that because I can remember I reviewed a movie and I loved it, and I was talking to the filmmaker a couple weeks ago, and he got this nasty review, which it is what it is. Yeah. But I told him, look, this is what you do. You resurface on what they watched before and what they reviewed. Chances are it's probably somebody who doesn't watch horror movies, and that's why they give you that review. Who cares? I mean, in my end, when I say I'm not gonna review something and trash it, it's because I don't believe in that. But in some cases, if somebody, if you're gonna criticize, make it clever, make it.
Yeah, I think when people go, "This movie's terrible," you're like, okay, it's not very clever, is it? Sort of, okay, you got to get into it a bit more than that, mate. Like what's not, and then they say something like, it's something sort of pointless, sort of like it's, it's too, and it doesn't really tell you. I once saw, this is something I tell people once, a very reputable reviewer in a newspaper back in London. And they were reviewing the latest James Bond movie, which at that time was Pierce Brosnan. I don't know if you remember back Pierce Brosnan years. And it was one of his latter movies. And they called the movie, boring and predictable. And it was a new James Bond movie. Now, you could critique James Bond movies for a lot of things, obviously. Right. But you cannot critique it being predictable. It's like it was the most lazy review of it. And I was like, yeah, this guy needs, hanging up. Because it's like, of all the things you could slag off a James Bond movie for being, predictability is not one of them. You're like, well, obviously, there's always, there's got to be some beautiful girl, there's got to be some gadgets, there's got to be some lunatic who's trying to take over the world in some fashion or the other. I mean, that's not James Bond being predictable. That's them sticking to the formula that has made them, several $1 billion, So, it's, to say that it's predictable is like, I mean, maybe the movie was boring, maybe, but it couldn't be predictable because you're like, well, yes, I mean, when anyone that buys a ticket to a James Bond movie wants it to be predictable, they really do. So, yeah, I haven't got time for that.
No. So your buddy, Paul Tanter.
Yes.
You have a movie coming up. I don't know when. It's called Dead Heist. I'm assuming you probably can't talk about that.
We can't talk about that one, no, because that's not in shoot yet.
Right on.
That one we can't talk about because I can't give away it's a similar sort of. No, I can't give it away.
Holy cow! You have a lot of stuff coming up.
I'm like I like to be busy.
Yeah. So talk to me. I mean,
let me tell you what I've got coming up. How about that? And then that will make it easier on you rather than going down that impressive list on IMDb.
Yeah, well, you mentioned about One Night in a Toy Store.
Yes, that's the third Christmas movie. So with the deranged Santa Claus and
that's awesome.
Sailor. So it's I can tell you what the setup for that one is. So because you've seen it a little bit, it's myself and Sailor lay siege to a toy store on Christmas Eve, like sort of Die Hard style, and we take hostages. And outside the police scramble and try to figure out what it is we want, and that's as much as I can tell you about that. But
that's awesome.
And obviously
I'm excited.
It's a bit John McClane style. There is someone trapped inside who is, not there by accident. So.
I love it. And you mentioned about de-influencer clickbait as Charles.
Yeah, that's two more of those coming up. So de-influencer clickbait, de-influencer offline. So there's a part 2 and 3. Of where the world gets a bit bigger. We kidnap this time more than just one social media influencer. On the next movie, we kidnap 7, and we escalate. Sort of very fast. So this guy's, and the offline is, the follow up to that one sort of. So yeah, we've got both of those ready to go. So and the idea with those, by the way, is because we like doing new things all the time. That's why we do the mousetrap and things like this. Is that we will release them almost back to back. So we'll only release them maybe a month apart from each other, rather than you having to wait a year for a sequel, or something like that. Where it's like, we shot them both so that we could release them both.
That's awesome.
Something different.
That's awesome. What about Knocking on Heaven's Door?
Knocking on Heaven's Door is just so we started making that movie a long time ago, but we've recently come up with I mean like 10 years ago, right? So we filmed something 10 years ago. We're now going to revisit that story, and we're going to make it 10 years earlier and a 10 years before. We're going to use bits of the film that we shot 10 years ago, and then use bits and then film brand new bits, and it's going to be but I can't tell you the story, otherwise I'll ruin it. But it's been a long time coming, that movie, sort of, but it's great.
I did not realize this, but there's a second mousetrap.
There's a second mousetrap. I definitely can't tell you anything about that.
No.
sort of it's again, the universe is getting a little bigger. Mickey is inviting some of his friends.
I fucking love that. No way.
Yeah, so
no way.
So it's getting a little bigger, definitely a little crazier. That is definitely about to be our biggest ever movie.
Oh my god, that's gonna blow up.
Yeah. There's a lot of support for that one there. So because we were the first of the races on that. So obviously we're the first to make a sequel to it. So yeah.
Your guys are great. And then let's see here. And you talked about the influencer. It's offline. That's the other one you talked about.
The third one, yeah.
Now, is there anything else that you can talk about that you're allowed to talk about?
One other one I've got coming up, completely different, but I just finished filming it, so it's very exciting. Is Virginia Woolf's Night and Day. So I did a period drama back in England. I flew back to England to do something with Lily Allen, Timothy Spall, Jennifer Saunders, like so a whole lot of British big cast, sort of very Pride and Prejudice like, but it was a comedy, so it was very good fun. Probably not out till the end of next year, but Tina, the director, did a wonderful job on it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out.
That is awesome. Well, Simon, I really enjoyed the conversation with you. I think you were a top-notch talent.
For having me and listening to all that.
And I really enjoyed your interview, and I really enjoy you. Period. And I'm really anxious to see some of these movies in the future.
Well, soon, hopefully, very soon. And What Lurks... Oh, yeah, and the other one I'm supposed to talk about, What Lurks Beneath. It was out on December 13th, please. So, for Christmas, guys, check out Silent Bites, definitely number one, because it's a Christmas horror movie. But also give What Lurks Beneath a look, because we like both of those movies. All right, mate, all the best.
Yep, take care, buddy. We'll see you.
They found something out there. Something buried in the cold. Something dangerous.
We are mixed up in something we do not understand. We have a problem.
Do you know who you are?
The first.
One.
Many.
Where is she?
Whatever that thing is, it can't be reasoned with. It's not going to be bargained with. And it's certainly not going to be a prisoner.
She is not trapped in here with us. We are trapped in here with her.